Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me, as always, this fine evening is Trevor Scott.
Hello. It is a rather fine, wet evening, isn't it?
Yeah, I apologise if you're not listening on the evening or if your evening isn't fine. When we're recording, we feel fine. It's wet outside, but, you know, it's just a turn of phrase.
We are recording,
leave me alone.
You know, late compared to when the episode was supposed to come out, so...
We technically are recording after when the episode will say it came out. But, you know, Easter shenanigans
and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
what are we doing tonight?
Yeah. Trevor, let me take the hosting duties.
Fine.
Well, no, I believe that we both actually have a bit of a game idea to pitch.
Yes.
Sometimes we come into an episode with something specific that has been stewing or that we may actually want to work on or just discuss. So, why don't you go first, Trevor? Tell us a little bit about your game.
So, we've been playing a lot of Hell Divers recently.
Oh, yeah.
And I've also been playing a lot of Fortnite. Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking, what would a looter extraction sort of game look like with you enter in with like no weapons and you got to find the weapons, then do the extraction thing, and then as you're leaving, you know, you're extracting gold or whatever, and whatever treasures you can sort of do, but every single run is that sort of you got that added pressure of, okay, you've come into this area, you don't have many weapons, as you're going through, you're looting and you're finding new weapons, and you're basically traversing, you know, random sort of worlds, kind of like a. It could be fun to even have like a Fortnite-esque map that is sort of personally done up, but then you're just entering at a certain point. And I did think about, okay, kind of like how in Helldivers you do have a respawn sort of thing. I was thinking you could technobabble that away with, you know,
some sort of number of clones or something.
Yeah, clones or you know, renewing tickets basically, and you can find additional ones. Yeah. And
you are a being that is actually four beings, and every time the outer being dies, the next layer, you're basically like a Russian doll.
Or an onion. And you're just peeling down the layers.
Yeah, you're an ogre. Ogres are like onions. They have layers. Or maybe a parfait. Yeah, okay. I like that. That's interesting. So you're thinking PvE then?
Mainly PvE. I can imagine, you know, a bit more like co-op-y sort of stuff. I do love the idea of having that, you know, no safe fire or whatever you know.
Yeah, no friendly fire kind of thing.
Yeah, you could. Yep. There is friendly fire damage because that just adds to the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of picturing. I like to sort of lean into that gameplay mechanic. I was almost picturing you just like landing naked. Like whatever we can come up with some story reason around it, or it's some whatever. It's
it's the time machine from Terminator in which you come in naked, and it's
I did think of that. I also thought of, and it's not naked, the opening to Mr. Bean with the spotlight.
You just fall down.
But also that if you're playing in a team, you don't land together. Because I kind of like the idea of, I think maybe you still communicate, like you can immediately communicate, but you have to find each other and you have to fight your way through to find each other, and also that the extraction point is unknown at the point of landing, and that part of the looting is also, oh shit, okay, there's an extraction point. Keep that in mind for when we need to run the fuck out of here when a swarm of whatever comes. And
I love the idea that you come in and the map is like blank. You don't know what's around.
Yeah, even if it is like you said, a Fortnite map that you learn it.
Yeah.
It's like, you might get to the point of, all right, I've landed here, but there's procedural elements of where enemies are going to be, where loot's going to be, obviously.
Yeah.
So, you might easily be able to say to your buddy, oh, I've landed, south of the hospital or whatever, but you don't know what's between you and him.
But I love the idea that if you turn up together, you may have found, oh, I just found a treasure map. It's marked somewhere, in the dark area. You're saying that you're down towards the south end of the map around this. So we'll come meet you in the middle. You have like a little, when you first meet up with them, you can then share your map, and that's like an action that actually happens. And then all of a sudden you have all your map and their map is.
Yep. I think like if you're traveling close enough to each other, then your maps get updated simultaneously. But then, if you split off, you have to come back to join them again.
Yeah, and it's just like a 1 or 2 second thing, but it's just something that you need to make sure that if you've gone off separately, you aren't going to update each other's maps. You only automatically.
For sure. Yeah. It's just a little. I mean, it just highlights the fact that you're each in this separately, and that you're working together, and you need each other.
And the good thing is the loot is shared between. I think the loot has to be shared between.
Yeah, Hell Divers does that well. You don't want griefers in there.
Yeah, I love the idea that it basically says you pull this stuff out and it's automatically cloned for everyone else. And it's just, there's actually like a little animatic of them pouring it into the cloning machine, and it outspits, three piles or whatever it is.
Yeah. So what sort of aesthetic or what sort of theme do you reckon this could be that fits well with that gameplay model? Do you have anything in mind?
I like the idea that you're from the future, and you're heading into the past and just collecting information from during and before the event, and your whole thing is about finding the information, and you can have seasons basically then that is like, oh, you've now found this information out, and now
yeah, and then the map changes. Okay, that's cool. Good. That gives some interesting things, because you can technobabble away then it's different every time because of whatever chaos theory, and you can't actually you can predict certain things but not others, and so you're getting information that will help you predict the future, but everything's going to be different every time.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the way that Fortnite actually does it away is like there's a 25-minute loop or whatever, and that repeats all the time, and that's all the loopers are going in there, and then they destroy each other, and someone wins, and then they do it all over again. You don't need that.
You don't need it.
Cool.
Like, it can just be a game. But no, I mean, again, going back to Hell Divers, like the lore around that is what makes is part of what makes that so appealing, and how consistent it is. And that you've got this sort of whole world that you're going into. So yeah, I like that idea of, all you can take back is the one little device that gives you, your map and your communications, and everything else you have to loot from that time period.
There is something cool about having, like, on the map, there are certain things that, like, we know that in this area of the map and in this area of the map are the two main objectives that you're going for. And as you're searching through the map, they're like, they can technobabble away that saying, oh, we detect this signature in this area, so please investigate this area and this area. And it could just be like a simple iPad sort of tablet thing that you're pulling back this time, or it could be some other things. But you could do so much stuff with different enemy types. Like, you got the current people, you've got the idea of having the occasional other future interlopers, but they're not actual real people that you're going up against, because
yes. I mean, you could have. So maybe your respawn conceit is that you do a brief time rewind to essentially undo that death,
Yes.
then you can have some ideas of like, oh, like that actually creates, in certain situations that creates alternate versions of you or something. Like that's an enemy then that you have to come across.
Yeah.
And like it's an altered, or it's like an out of phase, out of time, out of phase version of other people who have done the time respawn.
I don't know why, but I have a feeling that this could be, an amazing type of game because I love that loop of coming in and having to always find, and whatever thing you find, and you got enemies bearing down on you straight away, you have to get good with whatever you find at the start, and then once you found that, and once you loot up a little bit, it's like, okay, cool. You've got a time limit that you can only be there for, and if you don't extract, you don't get all the information back,
all the loot, all the XP or whatever it is that you're gathering.
I love the idea of Hell Divers being able to do, your main mission is basically, I think it's always data, and data is transmissible, but the loot that you're pulling out is actual.
You have to get it to like a device that they have also materialized in the area that will let you bring it back safely and clone it into your current whatever.
And I think the stuff that you can maybe unlock and all that sort of stuff are more around the cosmetic items, just like with Fortnite, how you got different cosmetics and all that sort of stuff, but you can just being able to, unlock new skins or not necessarily new skins, but maybe new characters, maybe new things like that.
I mean, new skins can work in a way, like maybe it's new literal skins since they appear naked. Maybe you appear as a, random body type and you can unlock new ones. Skin colors, number of arms.
I mean, one of the things I do love about Fortnite compared to something like PUBG, which I've been watching a few videos on PUBG recently, and I'm like, that's actually what I don't like. Everyone looks exactly the same, and basically by the time they're on the horizon, you see little black silhouettes sort of thing, and that's all you ever see. Whereas Fortnite, you go, oh, look at the pink and blue, streak running down that hill. Oh, it's a person,
or it's like, oh shit, I finally got away. Oh, who was it? It was the banana, or it was the Morty in the rock thing, or it was the fucking Spider-Man or whatever. And then when you run across that person later, like, you're much more likely to remember that it's them rather than... just off their
black silhouette and
their silhouette and their particular what they were using and their maybe their username or whatever. But
even then, you don't find that stuff out while they're shooting at you. You barely ever know who's actually shooting at you and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I think adding that sort of thing in, and sure, you're more around the PvE style of things, and I don't think it's necessarily a Fortnite clone. I'm just taking that the idea of the
well, I guess the next thing I was going to ask was what do you feel the moment to moment gameplay is like? Is it Fortnite-y? Is it more first person shooter-ish? How fast moving is it? Is it sneaky? Is it more run and gun?
I definitely think there are moments of where everyone gets alerted to where you are, and you have the real Hell Divers, fucking horde of crazy ass people, and it's like, oh fuck, having to deal with all the different enemy types, and a big crusher sort of thing comes through. I'm even thinking, that idea of like the Left 4 Dead, the different sort of boss enemy creatures that had different skills and
different
that sort of
attributes,
stuff could really work well.
Effects,
in this sort of thing.
Yeah, I could see that. That could be cool because it's like, oh, you set off this one particular thing, and they alert a bunch of people from their time who all appear around them, and you've got an instant, or it's him, and he like. every second a new one of them appears because he's going back in time to that next second.
There's something about the way that Hell Divers works as well with like the radar station, and you don't always get one, but if you do, then it would unlock the entire map and a few points of interest. And
like the autocannon and stuff too. Like I love that you can have secondary objectives that you may or may not find, but that will have a meaningful difference in the rest of that level.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's really cool.
So I know that. And how I actually started coming up with this idea is because I was actually dreaming after having played Hell Divers and Fortnite in the same night.
In the one night.
And it kind of amalgamated into this massive, like, the run back to the extraction point was just this crazy thing. And you've only got the loot that you find. So therefore, if you haven't found much ammo, you have to take it stealthy. If you... and it feels like it's the game would change quite.
It could add a lot of variety. That's what I was going to say. It could add a lot of variety and just change up your strategies of if you're low on ammo, it's like, okay, shit, we got to start making our way, or just even find the extraction point early on because we can't just make a mad dash and kill everything in our way. It's gonna take a bit of work to get back there with all that stuff.
Yeah. So you can, set up a trap or something like that. Or you can, I'm even thinking there's a lot of stratagems that you could actually sort of set up, kind of like the Hell Divers.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of more trap-based stuff, actually. That could be cool.
Yeah.
That it's less around just firepower.
Things coming from the sky, but it's more...
And more around, call your, home base in the future and say, all right, send me in, a bunch of laser trip mines or whatever, or send me in... specific things.
It costs a bit to actually do, and the reason why they can't bring it down is because they can't do organic and...
Yeah, like, again, you can technobabble it away.
Technobabble it away.
But basically, you maybe spend some of the resources that you found even. Like, you have to have found enough resources to be able to call that in. And whether or not that's the same resource that you get out and you... Like, that means you're going to get less out or not. That could be a balance that you maybe don't want.
Well, what I love is that it can only be the stuff that you've actually got in the future, because that's the account that they're taking it from. You can't... Right. They can't take it from here because you haven't got out yet.
True.
So I do like the idea that your first couple to get out may actually be really, really hard. But when you finally do... get out, you can start making things a little bit easier and build up some stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't happen to escape, but you got the main mission done, you're obviously going to get some into your into your account because I think
you set the data up still.
I love the idea of they just count the number of deaths, and that's how many clones you've actually got.
Right.
Oh, that's what clone you're actually on. So you're always tracking how many deaths you've ever had. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
And I don't know, there could be like the smallest chance of some weird mutation just for like this one clone, and then it just disappears again. And
actually, having those sorts of random attributes could be really interesting. You don't know what it's going to be until you show up, but you can jump 3 times as high.
Yeah.
Or you've got an extra arm, so you can triple wield.
Yes. Just, I don't know. There's so much that you could actually do with this, and you can just technobabble. The reason why you can only come back in X number of times is because you've now polluted the area with like this radiation. And
there's too many chronotons.
Exactly. So it limits how many times you can actually bring something in, how many times you can respawn. The idea of having, like, for the entire team in this big area, like, there are 25 times that something can be spawned into the area.
Yep.
What you use it for is up to you. So you could do 25
if you
times
die and you come back, that's one. Or if you bring in an extra tool. Yeah. Yeah.
That's and cool. Then it's a risk versus reward sort of thing. All we need to do is get this main mission done, and then we can continue on. And it's like then that number at the end is just...
Or even, it doesn't have to be a fixed number in that it could just, as you respawn or bring things in, the percentage, like you've got a, whatever, chrono pollution percentage level for the area.
And then every now and again, you can have a secondary objective that cleans up the air just a little bit, and you get a couple of extra. You get an extra 5 or whatever.
Chrono cleanse, yeah.
I can see how easy this would be to sort of expand. And I really would love to actually build something like this. Yeah. I think what would actually be perfect to build it in is UEFN.
I was going to say, it's probably the sort of thing, particularly with the Fortnite-inspired stuff, that you could build in UEFN. I think there's already PvE stuff that you can, do there, right? I guess I don't know how good extendable the AI and different things like that are.
Their stuff isn't perfect yet. Like, we know that for a fact. Like, they are talking about... there's a roadmap for UEF and what they're going to allow you to do. Like, there's not many single-player stuff that you can really do at the moment, whereas where you want to make it is that, what they actually built up for Lego Fortnite was that randomization stuff that they're now about to bring into Unreal 5.4, but they're also going to bring that into UEFN soon. So you'll be able to use that randomization stuff and... sort of build out certain little things for loot that you can like hide chests and shit around and just build up, your sort of little arsenal of things that you want to put in the area and just have it randomly generate the area that you're in. Yeah,
that's cool.
So that was my game. I know that I've come up with a lot of stuff. We were supposed to record on Thursday and I didn't have all this stuff thought of.
You've been thinking of it.
I've been thinking about it for last few days. So,
yeah. Well, we'll move on to mine. It's not as necessarily as in depth. It's one that I am actually hoping to build. You and I have both been messing around with Godot recently. I've sort of made the decision for my projects to take a step back and do some 2D stuff again, which Godot is good for.
Yep.
And one thing that you and I talk a lot about on this show in particular is storylets.
I thought you were going to go there.
Yeah. And funnily enough, I was realizing, and I may have mentioned this on the show before, I tried maybe like 20 years ago to build essentially, I didn't have the name for it then.
Yeah.
Storylets. But essentially a like storylet-based narrative tool where anybody was going to be able to come build a little thing that's got a bit of text but has conditions on it that would set statuses on your player and essentially the sort of thing that storylets do. So this is something I've been interested in for a long time, but
you didn't have the words for it back then. But now that you're sort of
I didn't have the words for it. I started building it as a web-based thing because that was when I was learning PHP for the first time. At the time, I was putting it into a database, and the way that I was like trying to find the next storylet did not work very well.
Wasn't very optimized.
It was just very slow. No, it was very slow, I seem to recall. But, and maybe I'll run into that issue again. I don't know, once I've got thousands of them. But the thing that I do like about storylets, and that we have done a lot on this show, is when they're embedded more into the gameplay or as ways to affect the gameplay through random or emergent narratives. Mm-hmm. So I've had a few different ideas recently. One I just showed you offline, the beginnings of which was going to be a dentist-based game with sort of storylets coming in
which we have actually talked about in the past. We have actually talked about the dentist game, about what would happen. I edited it not too long ago.
Did we go through that? Okay, yes, well, there you go. There was that one. But I've pivoted away from that because I couldn't really get a handle on the sort of moment-to-moment gameplay. I wanted to do something a bit simpler. So the game that I've been sort of working on and building upon is essentially what I would say it's a kind of a cross between Asteroids, Missile Command, and then a little bit of like colony management stuff built into the
nice
main gameplay, and then that is interspersed then with the sort of coming back to your home base and you'll have storylets that will move the narrative along and change things as well. So basically, for the gameplay perspective, I'm thinking you've got like a single screen thing, sort of small fixed sentry gun in the middle that you can rotate to point at your mouse cursor, or you do it with a controller. And where the missile command kind of thing comes in is you're not just like blasting out constantly. You've got a fixed amount of ammo. As you fire them, they kind of go on an arc, like they'll have various weights and things that you'll have to get used to what each ammo type does. And then you trigger them in midair to actually like explode.
Yep.
And they'll have like area of effects then. So, your main one might just be in the very missile command sort of way, a quick expansion of fire or whatever that will damage anything that it touches.
Which is actually more like your flak.
Yeah, exactly.
Flak cannon sort of thing, yeah.
Exactly. But then other ones you get might be, they split into like a cluster bomb sort of thing that go further. You might even have secondary
triggers that you can set off.
Triggers, exactly, and that sort of thing. And what I'm thinking is that you'll get that ammo over time, whether it is via storylets or via the colony management aspect, which is that, as you do a run, you've got a fixed amount of ammo, so you kind of got to be careful about, your accuracy and what you're hitting. But as you kill things, they'll drop loot, which might include ammo, might include other stuff. And that's where your little colony people, as stuff drops, they'll be running across the bottom to like, they go and get it and have to bring it back. But, that makes them vulnerable. You might lose people in the field. Yep. The different enemy types, like I'm thinking from the very beginning, it's mostly just like scout ships coming by that don't even pose a threat or whatever, really. They might take a few pot shots or whatever. But, as you go, and again, driven by the narrative, right? The plan is that, you do a run, you get back to base, and you've got some companions. You've got some people who are working with you who have, at the beginning, I'm thinking it's just one. You've got like maybe a robot companion who's working for you. But again, through storylets, it may be that, someone else has shown up. Some passing traveler or, some defector from the other side or whatever, someone from your past.
Yep.
And these are going to be fixed people. I'm not thinking randomly generated because that is going a little bit too far. But, Janice shows up, your ex-girlfriend or something, whatever it is. But then that obviously opens up a whole bunch of other storylets which are predicated on Janice is there. There's all the Janice lines of threads
of what is possible,
storylets of what is possible.
Does she come back with a child? Does she come back, with a new lover? Does she come
all
back
sorts
with
of things you could do. but also what that will, like the sort of your involvement in this conflict, in this war. What I'm thinking is you start off basically as you're just like some outpost on the edges, and all you're trying to do is you're trying to like knock out any scout ships that go past, like take pot shots at transports that might be carrying stuff that we can do, whatever. Like, you're not a threat. There's not many threats. But as you go along, the storylets will give some context behind, actually things are going in this direction. There's some valuable resources in the area, or things are heating up, and your side can't actually get resources to you in time. So it's like, you're on your own, but shit's heating up. And so sort of building it up like that. So I'm not necessarily having it as, there's endless threads going in a million different directions, right? For the storylets. I think there will be an overarching narrative, but the way you get there and when and like how quickly it progresses and different stuff will emerge through the storylets and depending on which companions are there, that might affect certain aspects of it, or your ability to do certain things, or what resources you have. So that's the gist of it.
Sounds reasonably, not easy, but easy enough to understand from a development point of view. Like,
well, that's what I like about it. Yeah. you can very much picture how to build that gameplay.
Yeah.
At least the base gameplay. You could build that in an afternoon. At least just the firing and whatever, you know.
And then the main thing is that what you want to get done this time is you want to get to a point where you can say, I've done this. I've actually completed this, and it's, simple enough that you can actually complete it from a development standpoint. Because I think our biggest problem is that we keep on starting things and not taking it through to completion because, oh wow, this idea was a lot harder to think about.
There's definitely aspects of it that could blow out in scope, and that's fine. Like, I'm not setting this as, I'm going to get this done and going to build it in X amount of time, because I know I have limited time. I still just need to build things that I'm interested in. But yes, from the perspective of get shit done, I purposefully, that's why I threw away the dentist game, because I couldn't get a good enough handle on what that actually looked like.
Yeah.
But this one I can feel, I can see the loop. And then it's just playing around with the writing and how far I can stretch that storylet aspect. And then the other thing is I can bring storylets in different ways. In one way, it's, the narrative. Mm-hmm. And I'm almost thinking like you get back to home base, and depending on which companions are there, you see them, they're sitting there, and the way that you progress, just click a time for the next mission. It's like, hey, who do you want to talk to? Oh, okay, I want to talk to them. That's going to bring up certain storylets that are related to them, but that also then lead to missions, basically, to attacks, to whatever, to escalations of the grander story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sort of thing that I can really, expand upon and experiment with and see where that goes.
That's really cool.
I think it'll be good. I think it'll be fun.
I like it a lot. I suppose one of the things I love about the storylets and those sort of things is just how simple bits of data can open up so many different possibilities. Just because if you build a map out as to what things they can unlock, there's so many different combinations that can come up to.
Yeah, and then it becomes, particularly as you're debugging and playing, I think it'll become finding the gaps. It's like, or just the opportunities. They finished a mission with no ammo. Like, they'd used up all their ammo, and all their colonists died or whatever.
Yeah,
that's an opportunity. Then that's not a fail state necessarily.
No, that's an opportunity for another story.
Yeah, and so you could have a few different ways that could go that only show up when your last mission had those stats.
Yeah, and you have enough of those, and you got different outcomes out of that. Like,
that's it. You can then have even different ones of, hey, this is the second time this has happened.
Exactly. You can have the Deus Ex Machina, where a hand of God actually comes down and deposits.
A literal hand of God. Yeah. Here is your ammo. There's another aspect that I probably won't tackle that you can do with storylets. I mean, maybe I will. We'll see. It depends on how much coding is going into sort of the text, but variations on the storylets then based on the game state as well.
Yeah.
So, you might have this particular storylet is based on, like we said, finishing the mission and with nothing left. But the text might change based on, hey, how many times has that happened? How many of this tag do you have? Or how in the data it gets stored. That doesn't necessarily affect whether that storylet will come up, but it affects how it's going to be displayed. It might affect what options you have. Because I'm picturing that each storylet, so I'm going to, again, behind the scenes, I'm probably going to use Yarn Spinner, which is a great tool made by some folks. They're in Tasmania. They're Tasmania based, aren't they?
Yep. I mean, we had Tim.
We had one of them on we had Tim on the show quite a few years ago, but he works for them. But that allows you to, that gives you all the stuff you need for creating text nodes, jumping between them, giving dialogue options essentially that can then jump to different nodes, run commands based on them, which is how I would hook it back into the systems of the actual game. Mm-hmm. And so that means a lot of that can just be defined in the yarn files, basically.
Yeah.
And I think I will have an outer structure for the storylet that will refer to a yarn node, basically. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then the yarn will have, I can feed in context to it where it can show things conditionally.
Yeah.
Based on the state and stuff. So yeah, it's really cool.
That sounds really cool.
I think it'd be good.
Okay. I think we should call it there.
Yeah.
I know that this was a little bit of a different episode. And
this is a little bit more tech heavy on some of it
but this
less
is
random.
This is what, what we've been thinking about, and we haven't had a chance to actually talk about it. So we thought we'd bring you into the behind the scenes of.
It's still improvising. It's still game design. Just because it's not from a random word generator.
Yeah.
It's from the RNG that is our brains.
Yes, the RNG that is our brains, and less funny because we're not trying to make it funny.
That's true.
We're trying to think of it as a game.
But anyway, let us know what you think. Yeah. How could we improve upon these? Would you play these games?
I would.
Yeah. I hope to, if I actually get through it. Anyway, if you would like to find all of our previous episodes online, go to podchaser.com/bitstorm and listen to them. Leave us a review. It'd be great.
If you like the song that we play at the start and end of each episode, that song is called Mount Defiance, off of the album Containment Failure by the band Kuradust. You can find it at kuradust.bandcamp.com.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm from the future.